Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Stephen Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started.
And we're live. All right, let's go. This is so exciting. Happy National, International, Intergalactic Podcast Day today. I am joined by a very special guest, the star of the Built to Finish book, the Built to Finish podcast, the brand, the series, the thought leader himself, Stephen Pivnik. Welcome.
Casey, thanks so much. Good to be speaking with the galaxy today.
Yeah. So here we are. We're having a good time. We're going to learn all about you, the podcast. And the way we start this thing off is we go, hey, how do you describe the Built to Finish pod in 3 words?
Wow, only limited to 3. I guess informational, motivational, and entertaining.
Nice. Motivational. Okay. So do those 3 for me again.
And informational. So I share a lot of information on the topics I like to discuss. It's motivational. I speak to, one of the descriptions of my show is we speak with audacious goal setters. So it's motivational to others, for others to listen to other people that have accomplished big things, both in the business world and outside the business world.
Okay.
And I try to keep it entertaining. I think I accomplished the first 2 better than the third, but I try.
Oh, totally. Okay. So, and you have been podcasting for it. If I did all the math, 43 plus episodes aired. So probably over this point, 50 plus hours of podcasting with preps and conversations and all these other things. So like a lot. What have been some of your biggest takeaways from the kind of guests you've had?
Biggest takeaways from the guest. There's just a lot of really interesting people out there. And I mean, I just, love having, conversations at, various networking events that I have. And I basically just had, almost 52 different one-on-one networking events, and just listening to people's stories, listening to like what's inspired them, listening to, how they get started, their trials and tribulations, whether it be in business or in endurance sports. It's literally never a dull moment. Like one episode after another, they never cease to amaze me. They keep me entertained for sure.
Yeah. Isn't that half the battle? Just like if you're entertained, then you're our filter. Like if you're excited by it, we're all listening. We're like, it's approved. It's Steven approved. He's stoked about this episode. What's the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with the pod?
And that's a great question. I'm trying to grow my brand, right? I when I wrote the book Built to Finish, I didn't realize that it would almost become a movement. And I just want to, continue that message of motivation and inspiration by allowing, my audience that I'm building to hear other people's stories, right? So they've heard my story, via the book. They hear my story when I'm up on stage, but I love to be able to expand my brand and my story via the mouths of others that I speak with. So that's really what I'm trying to promote.
Do you feel like there's a gap in the leadership circles or the ecosystem of who you serve that is being filled by this pod?
So my primary audience, so the pod has 2 basically avenues, right? One is I speak with business people, entrepreneurs, primarily founders that are looking to grow, scale, and ultimately exit their business. And then I talk to other audacious goal setters. So on the former, I think and we speak a lot about exits and how to structure the company properly for an exit, how to pursue an exit, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a lot of information out there on that how, from a pragmatic perspective on the steps that are necessary, but they come from the lens of specific types of advisors. The information out there, comes from investment bankers, comes from lawyers, it comes from accountants, So it comes through, I think, a very narrow lens. And what I like about mine, and of course I like mine, is pat myself on the back. I come at it from a founder's perspective.
Yeah.
So yes, I can help you with legal advice. Yes, though I'm not a lawyer. Yes, I can help you with accounting advice, though I'm not an accountant. But I have been a founder, and I understand what a founder goes through. And my tagline is "I speak founder," and I think that perspective is missing in the advisory marketplace. Just coming at it, from that been in your shoes before, been there, done that, know exactly how you're feeling perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. I definitely recall being to different events where we were going to learn business strategies and this and that. But before we even got into that, it's like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at you as the founder, your psychology, and what kind of weird gaps or what kind of weird issues do you need to resolve in yourself so that you don't accidentally, you know, carry them out into your whole company and sort of like, whatever mess you've got, you kind of share that with everyone else. So just in the same way, when it's time to exit, yeah, the investment banker's going to say this or that, but so true that there's that emotional, there's that individual founder side that needs to be addressed. Question, how has it felt to connect to the different guests and the different people in your audience on these one-to-one? You mentioned earlier, even just like almost like one-to-one calls that are happening. How's that felt?
No, it's all fantastic. I thought it would be a lot more awkward, to have, heart to heart, deep conversations via a technology, via podcast versus, sitting down for a beer or coffee. And I was, pleasantly surprised that it's almost as easy to have a conversation like this via a, podcast technology as it is face to face. And I feel based on the feedback that I've received, obviously, I felt really great about the conversation because I was driving it. But based on the continuous, positive feedback that I've been receiving, saying, Steven, that was a great conversation. That was a great questions. Thank you for having me. Like that's really been, reassuring to continue to see that and to validate the fact what I feel as a new connection that was just been made. And when somebody reciprocates that, I'm like, wow, we did just like, sincerely connect here.
Yeah, isn't it? It's crazy. Um, think back because you've put really full season. You got a year. You got hours of podcasting, and now. But think back to when you first started. What was the biggest challenge for you then?
Biggest challenge. Well, the biggest challenge was to start. I literally started thinking about podcasting a year prior to starting.
Got it.
And so the biggest challenge with, and a lot of people have that same challenge with any goal that they're looking, start or achieve. The hardest
Mm.
part is always to start. People, they want to have all the answers. They want to think for polished. They need to be 100% prepared. And that's definitely not the case it shouldn't be the case with most goals and definitely for podcasting. So my biggest challenge was starting. Then when I actually started, I was a little bit, I feel, robotic in my interviews because I had my questions prepared. I was gonna go I was gonna go, 1 through 10, one by one. I didn't ask many follow-up questions because I was already preparing the next question in my head. So getting out of that robotic, methodical mode and turning the episodes into conversations was, I think, one of my challenges.
What helped
And
you with
still
this?
listening to a bunch of other podcasters and
Oh,
actually
cool.
asking podcasters, how they keep from keeping their conversations robotic. And one of the best pieces of advice I got recently was don't prepare 10 questions, prepare 2 questions and let the conversation flow from there and see how it goes. And
Yeah.
I've taken that advice, not on all my latest episodes, but on several where I literally only had 2 questions written down because the person told me, he goes, this is going to scare you. And as some goals should scare you, right? The ones that really make you grow should scare you. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to record for 45 minutes. I only have 2 questions. So we give it a shot, see what happens. So I tried it on my very next episode and it was great. I mean, I really had to cut it short because the conversation was going so well.
Yeah, interesting, right? Like you'd think that you might have to, but sometimes if you go right to the next question, you then you run out faster having more prepared questions than you would if you just did the responses and like the active listening and those kind of things. It's
No,
good
that's
to know.
that's a really good point. If your guest becomes used to your cadence of rapid fire questions, then they're going to resort to rapid fire answers. And it's going
For
to
one.
be, less conversational from both
Yeah.
sides versus, just feeding all of their answers, for your next question. That helps a lot. And also asking guests, and some are better than others, to keep the conversation to keep the interview as conversational as possible, because most guests are just expecting to be questioned. But I tried
Yeah.
to remind folks, let's just keep this
Yeah.
conversational. And if you have a question for me, or if you want to throw a question back at me saying, that's what I did in this situation, what did you do specifically? Those make for the best episodes when the guests are actually asking you questions back.
Yeah. And giving them permission to do that, because I could see some people getting really weirded out if you did that. Um, and somebody warned me that you might even prepare questions for me. So I was mentally prepared for that.
Well, actually, my question is on that front, because I probably am correct in assuming you ask guests to be conversational as well. But not everybody takes you up on that, and they literally they stop at the end of an answer. Is there any way during an episode that you've recorded that you kind of force that conversational aspect into the recording?
That's a good question. Yeah. Trying to stump me on the live. All good. You know what I found? It's almost like if they're not forthcoming, we're either not in their zone of passion or expertise, or both, you know? And so instead of trying to like drag them through it kicking and screaming, I'm like pivoting to something else. And ideally, and I know you and I love the idea of the prep call and things like that. Ideally, I'm finding out what is that thing that they'll just geek out on for 4 hours, and then that way we can
Right.
just talk about that. All else
Mhm.
fails, we just talk about that. Sometimes I found it really helpful to throw like a little interrupt too if they get all scripted on you. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That reminds me, what is your favorite ice cream? And they're like, wait, where are my prepared notes on answering the ice cream question? And they don't have any, and they have to just be real for a second and answer that about ice cream. But yeah, it's interesting. I love that conversational style, and it's interesting sometimes that having to prepare questions can be nice, but what my notes, like even when I'm taking notes, I'm writing down my next question, circling
Sure.
it, and then I'm going back to active listening, and then maybe that next question just comes out naturally. But that gives me like the calmness to not worry about finding myself at like a dead end somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, good
Really
question.
interesting. I'm going to throw that into my next recording. What is in the middle of nowhere? What is your favorite ice cream?
Especially if they're doing that scripted answer, like you're a really good speaker and they kind of like fall
Yeah.
into the groove, like the record track where they just, "Ooh, I'm giving you my spiel." And you're like, yeah, it's interesting. What is your favorite ski binding brand? And they're like, wait, what? And then they tell you and they have a whole conversation about it. Isn't it,
Um,
it's fun though.
I'm going to blame Flesh. Thank you for the conversation that ensues after I ask that.
Yeah, yeah, just tell them, I just did this live the other day and we were talking about how to mess with our guests, but also to get them in their like back in their authentic place, what they want to talk about, you know?
I've been trying to find the right words to let a guest know that if you start rambling, I'm going to stop you. So maybe I should by saying that if you hear me ask you about your favorite ice cream, that means you've been rambling too much. But I don't have a good enough relationship with most guests to actually just to give
Yeah.
that to them.
You bring up a great point, which is like that interrupting thing, which I think comes a little bit later on, to, not to your point, you've had enough episodes, but it's always weird. You don't want to interrupt someone, but you also don't want to let them just go and bore you
Sure.
to tears.
Yep.
I once had a guest who got scripted, was boring me to tears. I must confess, I thought of checking my email and doing Sudoku, anything other than listening to this guy prattle on. And I should have interrupted him, and I didn't. Um,
Yeah. I once went a little bit too far because I had a guest who just kept going on and on with every single question.
yeah.
And I had no choice but to interrupt because these were like, 5-minute plus answers. And then the show's producer from Ringmaster, Amanda, she gave me feedback on that episode. She's like, Steven, you are really rude. And like 3 or 4 times, you just blatantly cut the person off. I'm like, she goes, and I saw the look in your eye when I was editing the episode, like you were so bored and like looking for a way in, and you couldn't find it. So you literally just said, okay, thank you. And you went on to your next question, which was rude. I'm like, well, yes, you noticed it because it was true. The person was going on and on and on.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's funny. Shout out to Amanda for pointing that out. That brings up a great question. Do you have any blooper moments that come to mind, like behind the scenes things that happened, or something goofed up, or was silly or funny, or anything like that?
I'm surprised I don't have more blooper moments. Well, I had a really great episode going just last week, and all of a sudden, the person's neighbor started cutting down his tree. Well, a service showed up to cut down the tree, and we know how noisy any sort of
Yeah.
landscaping is, but I think cutting down a tree is the loudest form of landscaping. And he felt horrible. It was awkward for me. And we did an entire episode. And he goes, listen, if we need to re-record, I will gladly give you another hour. He felt horrible. And I felt bad because it was such a great content that I really
Right.
wanted it to air without redoing it. But Amanda did her magic, and somehow with the use of technology, you erased the tree pruning.
Wow. That
And
okay. Again, shout out to Amanda. Yeah. But you know what? The picture I had in my mind was like there's a window behind the guy and there's like a crew out there just like you know. And hey,
yeah, I'm surprised there weren't more bloopers with like my wife walking, behind, in frame, with her robe on or something. Because when I'm recording, I have headphones on, so she only hears me speaking. And when somebody's going on for like a good 5 minutes with an answer, it sounds like there's nothing happening in my office. So
right.
those are the moments she usually walks in and for something or with something.
Well, I will say
So
that has happened in the Ringmaster universe. We have had a guest where we'll let the show remain nameless, but the guest, her husband walked into frame after taking a shower and thought thought it was an audio only podcast. And they had an awkward moment. Imagine meeting your guest's spouse, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?
wow,
Nice to meet
that
you."
that's got to top the list of bloopers for podcasts.
That's number one. Yeah, I think that's number one. Um, well,
I'm gonna try not to top that.
yeah, you don't. But hey, if you do that, we'll let you know if you do beat it. Any advice for new podcasters, especially in the B2B world, in the business realm?
Advice for you test. Yeah, similar to my comment earlier, start. I mean, if you're thinking about it, there's no better way to figure it out than to start. Your first, handful of episodes won't be as great as they could be, but so what? You're only going to get better.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to grow a brand, right? If you want to get your message out, I think it's a modern day way of doing it. It's nowhere near as hard as people think. There's good, better, and best. I'm gonna give you a big plug. If you use a company like Ringmaster, you're gonna get best
Right.
because they literally take care of everything for you. You just need to show up and have a great conversation with your guest. If you choose not to go with that type of company, you're gonna have to do a lot of work, right? There's a lot of prep work. There's a lot of editing. There's the pre and post production. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
I highly suggest getting Remaster or company like theirs. And yeah, have fun with it. It doesn't need to be anywhere near as formal as most people think. Like I thought it needed to be really, really formal, interview type conversation. You need to make your listener or viewer feel like they're a fly in the wall to a conversation between you and your guest. Those end up being the best types of episodes versus ones where that you're rattling off questions and you're getting like 2 to 3 line answers and you're hopping from one to the next. So just be as casual as you can about it while while focusing in on the audience and making sure that they're getting value from it as well.
Yeah. Man, great advice. I have one final question for you, and then back to climbing mountains and writing books and helping leaders grow and exit companies. There's a rumor that I might have a time machine, and it's most likely true up here in New Hampshire. Let's say we hop in this time machine and we go into the future, 50 episodes from now, about a year from now, worth of podcasting every week. What do you hope that your show has become at that point?
Wow. 50 episodes from now. I hope that I continue to improve because, I'm just a lifelong student of most things that I'm part of. So there's definitely, I'm no Joe Rogan. I don't know if I want to be Joe Rogan. I'd love to have his audience, but I'd love to, continue to grow the audience and for, folks to, continue to get the value and spread the word and, look at the show as something that they really want to, subscribe to and listen to often, not just occasionally. So I would like to get much more consistent in delivering value, to the audience so that folks, tune in more often and not just occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that habit going, right? So they're like,
Mhm.
hey, it's next episode drops. Next episode, let's get it. Let's get it.
Right,
And then they get
exactly.
mad at you if you don't have one come out. They're like, what? Vacation? They need their vacation. We need my episode. You can't take that week off. Come on. Get out of here.
That would be nice. We haven't missed a week yet. I'd be curious to see if I get any feedback. If I do, if I don't, that'll be a sign.
Right. That's right. Correct. Dude, that's probably a worse problem. You every weekend, nobody.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure we would get a bunch of trolls coming out there saying like, "Where the hell's my episode?" So, hey, with that, hey, where do people connect with you? They want to get more information on the pod, the book, the brand, all the things.
Sure. Thanks for asking. The best way to find more information about me is stephenpivnik.com, my website, and I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. So Stephen Pivnik on LinkedIn as well. And I also, post a fair amount, business and adventure stuff on Instagram. Again, at Stephen Pivnik, one word.
Okay, cool, sweet. Well, this has been great, man. Thanks for coming out. I feel like it was great to kind of flip the script on you and ask you questions. You're always asking the questions, so it's great to flip it around on you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no worries, man. Hey, great to see you, dude. And yeah, happy podcasting. Looking forward to seeing all your next episodes.
Thanks, Casey. Best of luck to you.
All right.
That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stephenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Accresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.